What's up, everybody? Hope all is well. You're staying safe and healthy. So today is all about why your childhood causes you to stay stuck, and there are things you've taken from your childhood that really stop you from your progress and what you want to achieve. And we all have these negative thoughts that we take from when we were growing up, and we all have one or two things that just play in your mind constantly that really are these thoughts that you just can't get rid of. They play in your subconscious. You took them from childhood, and many times you're not aware of them, right? You're not aware of how much they dictate what you're doing. And so many times it's taken from what is said to us by our parents or loved ones or ones that are closest to us. And they absolutely don't mean any harm to it, but they actually don't know the effect that it has on the rest of your life, because when you're younger, you don't really know any better. So obviously they're the closest ones to you. And it could be something that's said, it could be something that happens, or some experience that you have when you're younger, but you take those beliefs and they become part of your foundation. And it's so difficult when you have those kind of stopping you in your tracks. And I'll share with you today a couple that I have. And typically you have one or two. And the first one that I have that I've battled with is I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And it wasn't until, I want to say, about 10 years ago that I first uncovered this negative thought that was playing in the back of my mind, in that subconscious, all the time. And I was dating my wife at the time, and anytime I would do something, I would always tell her about it. And she was like, "Why are you telling me if you took out the dishes or you did the dishes or something of that nature?" And I didn't understand why. And I remember driving with my brother. We were going to a property that we owned, and I told him the story of how I tell her all the time what I do, almost for like attention or for, great job. And he said, "I can't believe you said that." And I said to him, "Why?" He says, "I do the same thing to my girlfriend." And it dawned on both of us. So I'm the oldest of three. I've got a younger brother, 3 years younger sister, 6 years younger. It dawned on both of us that once my sister was born, for better or worse, and no fault of my mother, we had to bring up what we did to get attention. And that was kind of a belief then that stuck in my mind, that I wasn't good enough because I needed to show what I did. And it crippled me, right? And I really wasn't aware of it until, 10 years ago, I'm 45, 35, right? So I held on to that belief probably for about 30 years, a little under 30 years, that I'm not good enough. And it was all from something that happened that I interpreted as a child, that I'm not good enough, and it got in my subconscious mind. Imagine how powerful that is, and how much that crippled what I wanted to do as a human being. So that was the first one. The second one for me personally was I'll never be successful. And I don't know really where this came from. It could have been many times growing up, I heard money doesn't grow on trees, or it must be nice when you would see somebody with a nice house or a nice car. And it kind of gave this negative emotion towards success and money and finances. And that just played as well in my mind over and over again. And I bring these two up because I've uncovered them, and they have definitely helped. When I've uncovered them, they've definitely helped me in my progress, just getting through those negative thoughts. And it was so apparent to me yesterday. So I had a couple coaching calls with two people, and we were talking about the power of more morning routines. And I eat, sleep, and breathe morning routines. That's what I coach my clients on. And I was talking to these two individuals, and one said, in the morning, I hate getting up. I dread it. And then we dug a little bit deeper, and she said, it all comes from my parents. And every day they got up, they were like, "Oh, this is going to be a terrible day." And that mindset was just built, that subconscious belief that she dreads mornings was brought about from her childhood and her belief pattern. So it's just it's an interesting piece to think about. And I want you to just take a step back and think about like what comes up fairly regularly that stops you in your tracks. What are some of those negative thoughts that you have, one or two in the back of your mind, that always play out? And then another client I was talking to said, hey, I sit for about an hour in my bed because I need to collect my thoughts because that's the way I was raised. And it's not serving her, but again, it's part of her foundation. And part of the struggle is you don't want to go against your family values and your beliefs. And it's so difficult to break through that. So just keep that top of mind. The other piece, so I gave you two of my kind of negative thoughts that I've battled, right? I'm not good enough and I'll never be successful. And even when I say them out loud, it gives this kind of twinge to me that, man, I can't believe I used to think that way, or it kind of pulls me back into that thought process. But one strategy that I learned from a coach of mine was to write it down and then put it on someone you love. So what I mean by that is if you have a negative thought and it says, you know what, I'm not good enough, I want you to physically go ahead, grab a piece of paper, write it down. And then the other strategy that was really a breakthrough for me was then put it on someone you love. So I have two sons, Jackson's 11, Carter's 10. So if I'm thinking, that I'm not good enough, I'll put it on Jackson or Carter. And I'll picture myself saying to one of them, Jackson, you're not good enough. Or Carter, you're not good enough. And that breaks the pattern. It's like this switch is flipped. And I think to myself, there's no way I would ever say that to either one of my sons. So why am I saying it about myself? And that's all you need is that split second of, wait a second, why am I thinking these negative thoughts? And that'll help you get past it. So I just wanted to bring up today the awareness of those negative thoughts. Maybe you've got one, maybe you've got two, and try and figure out what they are. And then two, I want you to give a strategy that has really worked for me when they pop up, because they're always going to pop up. But if you have the right tool, the right strategy to get past them, then you can all of a sudden write it down, put it on someone you love and say, that's a ridiculous thought. And you can go back to what you're doing. So I hope you got value out of that. Let me see if there's any comments. I got some comments. Steve's on. Hey, Steve, how are you doing? Craig dealt with similar stories. Here, Craig, I love that comment, bud. That's the craziest thing is we all have one or two that play in our subconscious mind over and over again, and they stop us in our tracks. They stop us from doing what we really want to do. And it's so crazy how that limits our growth as a person, as a human being. Maybe it's business, whatever it is, it stops you in your tracks. So that strategy of writing it down, putting it on a loved one can be an amazing tool that you can leverage. So have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you soon, and I'll be back same time tomorrow.